What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Urban Exegesis, interpreting culture through the lens of scripture. My name is Dr. D, and today we're doing a history lesson on hip-hop culture with none other than Busta Rhymes. So I know this is going to get a lot of people thinking and talking, so keep it locked. So it begins actually November 19th, 1493 this is Christopher Columbus's second voyage. So he arrives on the island of Puerto Rico. Now, the indigenous Taino culture dominated that island. And the Taino people, they called the island Boriquen. The Spanish word is Borinquen. It's called the land of the brave Lord. And Columbus named the island San Juan Bautista in honor of St. John the Baptist. And see, so that's what they would do. They would come, they would change names, right? But there's another character within this story whose name is Juan Ponce de Leon. And he's a former lieutenant under Christopher Columbus. And he heard about the wealth of gold on the island of Boriquen. And so he gets permission and he goes and he explores and he subjugates the island of San Juan Bautista. Now, the indigenous people are decimated, right? The workforce is low. So as part of the early colonization process, African slaves were introduced to the island in 1513 to make up the workforce, right? And thus the story begins. The Africans and the indigenous Taino Indians are introduced. And so our story begins there. And so the Africans have their drums, they have their instruments, they have their stuff that they're going to be using, their Africanism, right? And the people of the island of Borinquen, Ponce de Leon would later change the name to Puerto Rico, the port of riches, right? So all of this is happening on this island, is happening on the Dominican, it's actually happening on the island of Hispaniola, which is the Dominican Republic, and Haiti. It's happening in Cuba. It's happening in the West Indies, Jamaica, all those islands. This kind of stuff is happening, and the African slaves are bringing their Africanness, the drums, the music, the instruments, the dance, to the people of these islands, the indigenous people of the islands, right? So I wanted to just build sort of a foundation of what happened on the island of Puerto Rico, how we were introduced to the Africans, and then how the Africans introduced their cultural ways. And it was a mixture of the Taino, the African, and the Spaniard. And so we begin the history lesson, and I'm going to let Busta Rhymes sort of take it from here, talking about a little bit about the Caribbean, the influence, and some of his thoughts. Let's go.
My whole crew was Caribbean.
I don't know if you just caught what he just said. He said my whole crew was Caribbean. You know, this puts to rest that fallacy that Busta Rhymes was trying to hide that he was Jamaican, or nobody knew he was Jamaican. Everybody around him was Caribbean. He speaks to that. But let's continue.
Hip-hop was given birth to by Caribbean culture.
Absolutely.
Jamaica gave birth to hip-hop. With that being said, we do have to understand that there's a lost history by everyone in hip hop.
Absolutely.
As far as research is concerned.
Yep.
Nobody thinks to go to the West Indian culture to acknowledge how the birth of this culture was even conceived. And I think that that's something that I take great pride in being able to bring to the forefront.
Right.
New York is the melting pot more than any other city in the entire United States for Caribbean culture.
Right.
Trinidadian, Belizean, Vincentian, Trinidadian, Guyanese, Haitian is in the 5 boroughs, concentrated more than any other city. So, with that being said, when I say what I'm saying, my point is, with New York being the birthplace in the 5 boroughs, no, the Bronx in particularly.
Notice what he said. He is paying homage. Where is it? It happens in the Bronx particularly. He's not from the Bronx, but it happens in the Bronx. Let's continue.
Listen. The most significant and neglected component about the history and the research of hip hop is its origin.
Wow.
We got to start changing that narrative.
Yep.
We can't just keep saying Kool Herc gave birth to it. Jamaica gave birth to it by way of Kool Herc.
Facts.
Through the Bronx.
Through the Bronx. I do need to address this too. My brother James Cruz said that Puerto Ricans was guests in hip hop.
Latinos in general. Let's just say that.
Okay, cool.
I'm Cuban, baby.
All right, cool.
All of us.
Cool.
He said we're not guests.
I'm correct.
We're not guests.
I'm correct.
We're definitely not
the way
guests.
Revolt
Can I? No, it's not the way Revolt worded it.
The Revolt worded it the wrong way.
Okay, but I mean, I'm just going on a clip that I saw, and I didn't see the whole thing, and I spoke to my brother James Cruz, and he told me there was a whole thing that was missing from the clip.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. Latino on a whole, I am not speaking for that.
Right.
I'm speaking for Puerto Rican people,
Right.
which is Latino.
Right.
So it's conducive. Puerto Ricans and blacks created hip hop. Period. Hip hop is an embodiment of 5 elements. It ain't just DJing and rapping.
Absolutely.
That's a component in hip hop culture. 2 significant components.
Just 2, though.
Actually, no, it's not just 2.
See, I want to speak to this. I want to speak to what he just said, right? Many people, even many of the pioneers, historians, only focus on, when they talk about hip hop culture, they focus on those 2, the DJ and the MC. But that is not the whole embodiment of hip hop culture. There are 5 elements. Those are just 2. Let's continue.
So it's the foundation. So Kool Herc still gets his credit as being the one who spearheaded the birth of the culture. But when I say it was created by Puerto Ricans and blacks, it's because Kool Herc ain't create breakdancing.
Right. Graffiti.
He ain't create graffiti.
Right.
Puerto Ricans had a lot to do with that part.
Right.
And that part is what helped create the embodiment of all of the 5 elements. It's the 5 elements that gave birth to the entire culture. And to this day, nothing has been added to it or taken away from it or changed it.
Right.
It is the end all says all. And that's an undisputed truth. And truth don't change, only lies do. So anybody that want to talk different from that is a liar.
Right.
Sorry. And I'm the last one you could argue with. I ain't got no time for that debate. It's a pointless debate with Busta Rhymes.
So to end this, let's just recap. We saw at the beginning of the video that we looked at the history of how, Columbus, Ponce de Leon, he came to the islands, Africa, the Caribbean. The Caribbean was laced with African culture, the drums, the music, the sound, the dance. That's all influences. Right? And so we're the first ones to get the African influences. Again, We're made up of those people, the African, the Taino, the Spaniard. We're made up of those people. So understand, the culture of hip hop is not a foundational Black American culture. It is African American culture and Caribbean culture, which includes Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Cubans, Panamanians. Now, as hard as that might be for you to accept, right? African Americans, yes. Foundational Black Americans, whatever that is, this new thing, no such thing. So let history speak for itself. I hope you enjoyed this little video.